Hey traders, Raghee here, and in this free recap video, we're going to cover a couple of the markets that are on our radar. And one of the things that definitely got my attention this morning was we saw the strength. We immediately on the bell, the market just took off. And here's what I will always mention: unless there is what we call a 1 minute breach setup, meaning we look at the 1 minute time frame. For the first 5 minutes, we look for a very specific, aggressive, right after the bell type trade. Unless that is ready to go, what I'm going to typically tell everybody is be really patient. Look for that 9:30 to 10 o'clock sell-off. If that doesn't happen, look for the 10 to 11. And that's actually what we got. And that was actually a trade that we sent out today, a 6:15 entry, 26,615. And that's what the patience requires. Does that mean we have to sit for about 30, 40 minutes? Sometimes an hour? Absolutely. But here's the thing. If you play the morning aggressively, and let's say you get a fill up in here, that's great if the market keeps going higher. But how often does that happen? I would say it happens less than 25% of the time. What we'll oftentimes get is a 9:30 bell ringing. The market sells off. It might rally again, but it's going to sell off. And even as the market continues higher, you'll get these little sell-offs like this. That is precisely where the lowest risk and highest reward waits. And that is what we look for again and again. So a quick look at our early morning Dow setup. Another trade that's on our radar, and this is one to keep an eye on, is the December gold contract. And we are looking for December gold to rally up into a daily price movement range zone. And let's talk about the zones here for a moment, because these zones are very helpful. Now, I color code these myself, but what I want to do when I look at these zones is basically point out where the worst or lowest reward to risk, right? So low reward, high risk. Kind of a sweet spot here in the yellow. And then this is kind of the idyllic high reward, low risk entry, or what we call validity, right up against the stop loss, essentially. And more often than not, if we can end up in this yellow zone here, I'm going to be happier than not. If that yellow zone accompanies the price movement range bounce, which in this case should have taken us at least to 1205.1 plus another 11.5 points. Well, you'll notice we were nowhere near that. To me, I would want about 1216.5 before I even think about getting short. Right? We are looking short on gold. So think about, a zone. In fact, this whole area is a zone, but there's three little zones where your risk to reward ratio is, markedly different. On one hand, you can get in quickly at the low zone, but it's the worst risk reward. The sweet spot is kind of a mix, and the green area is something that I would say is going to be most ideal to low risk tolerance traders. So think about breaking your trade down into the zone. And here's another tip. Your entry is valid right up until the stop loss. So wherever your stop loss is, anything in this case below that is fine for an entry, right? What's going to dictate this level versus this level versus this level? Well, you can ask yourself, I can risk X number of points. Whatever X points is, that's your risk. In this case, subtract X from the stop loss, and that becomes your zone. So if my stop loss is 1221 and I'm comfortable risking 5 points, basically I'm okay getting in around 1216. And anything from 1216 to 1221 is okay for an entry. But anything below that presents too great a risk. So ask yourself, what can I afford? Denominate that dollar to a point amount, right? So I can risk X number of points. So denominate that to a point amount. And then that's going to dictate the zone you can enter in. Think about that. Exits first mentality. That might seem very different than things you've heard of before, but this is how I look at trades, and this is how I can, present a zone that works for multiple trading types and multiple risk tolerance muscle types, right? It's a muscle that will continue to grow, but respect what you've got now. If I took you into the gym and, handed you a 5-pound dumbbell and said, hey, curl this, bicep curl this, I think everybody listening to me right now would be no problem. If I hand you a 50-pound dumbbell, I've probably eliminated 90% of the listeners right now. I'm sure there's some of you out there, guys and gals, who can grab a 50-pound dumbbell and curl it. But let's face it, most of us, including myself, cannot. So think about that risk muscle. Now, could eventually with training you get to 50 pounds? Absolutely. Risk muscles are the same way. All right, gang, I'll see you in the next update.